It's the path ahead. It's the astrology forecast for the week of August 11th through the 17th of 2025. I am Natha Perkins of Electra Astrology. So before we jump into the charts, one thing that has been coming up for me all week are all of these people popping into, whether it's my feed, in conversation that I'm having. There's this sense that there are rules that must be followed. There is dogma that must be obeyed. There is a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And you know what? It's rubbing me up the wrong way. So we're going to talk about that because that is coming up in the astrology this week. So if you have noticed that, we're going to get into why that is. And I have also noticed that just in terms of connecting with people, conversations with people, and wanting things to be different, wishing that I was seen or heard in a different way, that I could get answers faster. That's in the astrology too. And so you're probably feeling some of that as well. We're going to talk about that. And there's also something really sweet going on. There are a lot of downloads and insights and different ways of seeing the world that are coming into our awareness. And I don't want you to miss out on that. Because we miss out on the good stuff. We get really focused on the stuff that's hard and difficult, and then we miss out on what's really sweet and precious. So we're going to talk about all of that as it relates to the astrology this week. If you like my style and you want to work with me privately, I've got a bunch of different ways to do that. You can find me at electraastrology.com, and let's jump into the charts. So we're going to start off talking about something that I've noticed that's, like I said, it's been rubbing me the wrong way. And usually when things rub me the wrong way, I find that there are a lot of you that totally relate. And I'm so blessed and lucky because I get to work with so many of you all week that listen to this podcast, and you guys reflect back to me. So I know that we're doing some work here together in real time. So what I have been noticing is that we are starting to finally feel the fact that Saturn especially, but Saturn and Neptune are headed back towards Pisces. I think that it took a while because both of them have been retrograde for some time now, but we're starting to feel it. And one of the things about Pisces is that it will bring up the fear. So the fear looks like you're going to do something wrong. So here's a good example. I'm noticing that my Instagram feed is full of people that are marketing their pages in a way that says you're doing it wrong. And whether they're talking about Jesus or some sort of spiritual prophecy or something that relates to health, maybe it's political. The general idea is, I'm right, my opinion is the only one that matters, and you are doing it wrong. You're going to screw it up. Something bad is going to happen to you, or let's just say it, you're going to go to hell, okay? And this is not what feels right in my system at all. And when we look at the idea of Pisces, which is related to God, it's related to higher power, it is related to the unknown. Think about how many thousands of years we as humans on this planet have been controlled by this idea of hell. Whatever the hell happens to be, it could be you're burning for eternity, or it could be you're going to miss the boat, you're going to have terrible health, like whatever it is. I also want to just say that today, on Monday, as I record this, the moon is in the sign of Pisces, and it's conjunct the North Node. So if you're feeling anxiety in your system, it'll pass. It's bringing you some remembering about how powerful this Pisces archetype is when it's bringing you into the shadow. So if you have been noticing a lot of spiritual teachers or health gurus or astrologers, what have you, if you are noticing people that are saying through their messaging, there's something to be afraid of, just remember, you don't have to fall for that. The high side of Pisces is where we're tuning into our own guidance, and we're understanding that we are in some sort of flow, and that when we're quiet and still and we're not going into that nail-biting fear of what if I am doing something wrong, that's where we find our answers. So we've had a little bit of freedom as Saturn and Neptune have been in Aries, because Aries is such vibrant, forward-moving energy where we are getting that fear out of our system because we're moving. But as we're headed back towards this Pisces, if you are noticing that some of that anxiety is starting to creep in, or that you're finding yourself scrambling like, I've got to believe the right thing and I've got to think the right thing and I don't want to mess this up. Just know that's your higher self showing you that you still have some of this old conditioning in your system that is ready to be worked with. Okay, because we don't want to give energy to the fear on the planet if we can possibly avoid it. We're working on developing our own equilibrium and our own strength so that even when we do push up against these walls of fear of like, oh, what if I do burn in hell because I did this thing? We've got to pull ourselves back out and say, wait a minute, reality check. That's not going to happen. Am I living a life that is in alignment with who I want to be? Yes. Okay, check. Am I kind and loving and compassionate to the people in my life? Yes, check. Now, if you're not, hey, you got to work on that. This is your karmic path. And we don't want to go through this life lying and stealing and cheating. And we are imperfect. So if you've had times in your life where you have acted way out of alignment, you just have to do your best to come into alignment. Awake and aware people are going to try their best to mitigate the damage that they've had in the past and balance it out by making amends, living in dedication to love, kindness, and compassion. Okay. Now, let's also look at our relationships because, as you remember, all of our personal planets that have had to make connections with these outer planets, meaning the parts within us that have values that want to be desired and seen and validated and loved and that feel and that act, all of those have gotten some very strong lessons from the outer planets about who we want to be, who we take ourselves to be, how we choose to be, etc. And Mercury today, a very personal planet, a relational planet, because with Mercury, we are communicating and connecting with people around us all day, every day. We are also looking into our own mind and how our mind takes information, processes it, perceives it, sometimes not in the best way. Like, here's an example. Have you ever texted somebody, took your time, sent them a heartfelt text, and then you never heard back from them? And your brain, if you're under stress, might perceive that as a slight or as a snub. In fact, I've been thinking back over many of my old friendships that I've had that have fizzled out. And I've gotten feedback from some of those people that I've reconnected with that they thought that I had blown them off. And the truth is that I just got distracted. I wasn't intentionally not answering their texts. I just had too many texts coming in at that point in my life, got buried, forgot about it. But our brains do this thing where we say, they're mad at me. They don't like me. They're blowing me off. And that's a perception. And I think that a lot of us err on the side of the negative perception. They didn't call me back. That means they don't love and appreciate me. Therefore, I'm going to be mad. So, as we have been going through this Mercury in retrograde in the sign of Leo, which is so interwoven with our ego, right? And our ego has all of these rules and regulations about how we must be perceived and connected with, and how people should look at us, and how we want to put ourselves out there, that if we end up on the shadow side of our ego, we're generally not in good territory because we end up just kind of blowing it and getting it wrong. I've done some great videos on the ego and on Leo over the past month. You can find those under bonus episodes on YouTube or Astrology for Awakening. The ego is a really good thing to have some background about, especially as it relates to you and astrology and the sun, because the more we understand our ego and the driving forces of our ego, the better we're able to meet that from a place of equilibrium and balance. That's when we're the most pleasant. That's when we find other people the easiest to deal with. Now, look over the last, let's say, 3 weeks of your life and your relationships. Which are the ones that have struggled? How have you perceived those people to be relating to you? Are you in a stance of my arms are crossed over my chest and I'm mad? I was let down. They didn't do it right. They blew me off. Okay. If that's where you are, you now have some freedom to look with some objectivity. Now that Mercury has station to go direct, you can look and say, was I right about that? Or maybe you've had relationship dynamics that have felt much improved. Like, wow, we're finally making headway. Things feel really smooth. I'm feeling really excited about the connection that we've been able to have. If that's the case, great. Take some notes about why it went so smoothly, and you can keep doing those things because Mercury retrogrades teach us how to be in better relationship, how to have better communication. By the way, I love some reality shows. The reason that I like them is because I get to watch human dynamics just in real time, people relating to one another. And I have to say, people are really, really bad at communication. There are so many missed opportunities when people are relating to one another. And so often that anger, that defensiveness comes in immediately and clouds what could be a real true connection. So if you are a reality show watcher, check it out. When you notice people relating in ways that seem toxic, go into your own life and say, do I do that? Because we all do it. But the whole point is that we're trying to get better at communicating because, again, that is the grease for all of the wheels of being a human on this planet. You've got to learn how to communicate, and you have to be able to bust yourself when you're being a terrible communicator. And it's always on you because you're the one listening to this talk. It is on you to improve the way that you communicate or to ask for different things from the people in your life that are bad communicators. You can't change them, but you can change the way that you perceive what's happening. So think about what your Mercury retrograde lessons have been over the past few weeks and take some notes. I want to come back to Saturn here for a second. Remember, Saturn is our inner critic. Saturn is that energy within us that does get very rigid and that gets very annoyed when people don't do what they say they're going to do. And also the part of us that gets on our own case when we didn't take care of something. You know, it's like that inner critic that says, hey, you were supposed to send those tax forms to the accountant like 5 days ago. What are you doing? And then that voice is like hassling you every single day that it takes you before you finally send the tax forms to the accountant. So Saturn does some good work for us, but Saturn can also feel really constrictive. So we've talked a lot about that inner critical voice. Like I said, that critical voice is starting to weave in some fear right now, but we have something nice happening, which is that Uranus is making this sextile to Saturn or vice versa. And Uranus is the energy that says there's got to be a better way to do this, right? So there's got to be a better way to experience your life without having to beat yourself up all the time. So this is what I'm noticing when I'm watching these spiritual teachers on Instagram who come in and they're like, there's one way to talk about God. If you say it like this, you're bad. If you relate like that, you're bad. If you do this, you're bad. You're only good if you talk about God in this way using this verbiage. And this is only an example, but think about everything that has come across your field over the last few weeks where it's had that flavor or you've perceived it as that flavor where it's like, don't do this, do that, don't do that, right? And you get this kind of twisted feeling in your gut of like, oh, wait, what? There's a lot of that in the political communities, in the spiritual communities, in the health communities, a lot of black and white thinking accompanied with you're going to get in trouble and you're going to screw this up if you don't get on board. So knowing that, and then knowing that Uranus is here, and Uranus is like the consummate rebel. Uranus does not want to be told what to do. Uranus, in fact, is not going to play by the rules. And Uranus is in Gemini right now, which is helping you shift and change the way that you think. So, what I've been noticing is I am very skeptical. I always have been. It's hard for me to just believe somebody at point blank because I want to get in there and experience it for myself. And once I have had the felt experience, then I can understand what feels right and what feels wrong to me. So all of these black and white teachers just get under my skin But Uranus is here for all of us right now, reminding us like, hey, it's your mind. You're the one that gets to decide how you relate to this and how you think about this. And frankly, I love that freedom. I love this idea that I can look at it however I want to, and I can perceive it however I want to. And I'm encouraging all of you to do the same thing. You've heard me say, any teacher that comes that says their information is the only right information, they're the only ones that have the connection, they're the only ones that know how to heal you, they're the only ones that can tell you how to do it right to save you from whatever, run. We are in a time period where you absolutely must be thinking and feeling and attuning for yourself. Of course, you can have people that support you and information that interests you and teachers that you really relate to. But at the end of the day, you have to run it through your own filters to figure out what fits for you. And that is Uranus in a sextile to Saturn. We're going to be feeling that, so pay attention to that. And here's something that I'm really loving for this week for all of us. And I talked about this in my Lionsgate video. You should go ahead and listen to that if you haven't watched it, because even though 8-8 is technically over, we are in the portal. It's still happening. And one of the things that you can see in this wheel is that I have the star Sirius. Sirius is at 14 Cancer. It is in a conjunction with both Venus and Jupiter. By the way, you can see Venus and Jupiter on the eastern sky in the morning if you're up around 5. Really beautiful, really sparkly, bright, vibrant planets. And they are conjunct this star Sirius. And this is why we call it the Lion's Gate, is because Leo, the sun in Leo, is following them. So they actually rise before the sun rises, which means that we can see all three of these things in the sky. And in fact, you can see Mercury as well, Mercury being at 4 degrees of Leo. So if you're awake and you get out to see these things, first of all, they're just beautiful. But second of all, we're underneath these gifts. These are gifts. These planets are benefics. Sirius is a fixed star that brings us sacred knowledge. Maybe things that we haven't known before, haven't been able to see before. And this fits in with that Uranus and Gemini. Like, do you want your mind blown? Do you want to know what you're actually capable of as a human on this planet? Do you want to know what's really going on? Probably. Yeah, I do. So there's some entry points this week around letting some of that information come in, but we have to be willing to change the way that we perceive. If we're so busy with our arms crossed and we're growling at everybody because they didn't text us back and you're doing it wrong, which, by the way, if you're one of the people out there that's always telling other people that they're doing wrong, that's something to think about as well. Think about how much extra stress it causes you to always be righteously standing on your soapbox, trying to convince people to do it your way. It's hard. It doesn't leave a lot of extra room for silence and stillness and allowing things to flow in. So we're always looking at this from two directions. Are you fear mongering, or are you being in fear? If so, taking our power back. Are you a terrible communicator, or do people come to you and don't know how to communicate? Either way, you need to do some work. We need to balance out the scales. And of course, if you are ready, willing, open for it, there's really beautiful information coming through. If you've had questions about how to move forward, or how to work with an issue, or how to heal a relationship, or even how to connect with somebody that has passed over, or you're trying to connect with somebody that's still here and you don't know how to do that, this week brings you some beautiful opportunities, and they might come in non-traditional ways. They might come as downloads or insights. They might come through just aha moments of speaking to somebody or laying out in the sun and allowing your dreams to come in and inform you. It's a lot of magic with this Lionsgate portal that is still happening this week. So pay attention and maybe get out your journal, get out some oracle cards, and allow yourself to feel really supported in ways that feel right for you, ways that settle you, not because somebody else has said to do it or somebody else has said to not do it that way. This is a power reclamation time. You know, we all look around right now and we're like, everything's so messed up. Things need to change. Yeah, they do. And they will begin to change when we each take back are little bits and pieces of power that have escaped us over the course of our lives. And then also, when we take responsibility for our own energy leaks and the things that we're doing that are perpetuating bad relationships or poor communication, etc. So there's a lot of emphasis this week on the self-responsibility, and we get there by tuning in to understand how we feel, what we want, what our values are, etc. Now, one way to really tune in to figure out where you stand on something is by paying attention to the reaction of your physical body. So we see Ceres here at 16 Aries, and we're going to watch Venus make a square to Ceres. So when we're evaluating our priorities and we're understanding on a deeper level, what am I attracted to right now? And what I mean by that is like, am I attracted to being out in the garden? Am I attracted to running and getting my heart rate up? Am I attracted to listening to this teacher or this podcast? Like, what do I feel my energy pulled toward right now? And what do I want to give my precious time and energy to? These are Venus questions, especially Venus and Cancer questions. And when Venus is squaring Ceres, the asteroid that relates to the physical body, I have some great Ceres talks under the Astrology for Awakening tab in YouTube. Those are great. Once again, we want to understand our bodies. We want to understand how we naturally move into self-care. And when we lose our self-care, how to come back to it. You can find those answers in those videos. But Venus squaring Ceres says, if you want to know what you're attracted to, tune into your body. Your body's going to say like, hey, guess what? I need a nap. Or, hey, I want to go out and like move my body. Or I need to get some iced tea and sit and sip it so that I can allow the downloads to come to me. Like, we're dedicated to tuning into the physical body to get these answers that are coming in. And we're watching as Venus continues to make these connections. So Venus is going to sextile the asteroid Vesta. Vesta is the temple energy that says, just calm down, just take a deep breath, just focus on what's important, leave all of the messiness at the door, and come in and tend to that internal flame. And I have Vesta videos as well, you guys, on Astrology for Awakening, so check those out. Vesta is a really potent archetype in the zodiac that not a lot of astrologers talk about. It reminds us that there is so much to find when we are systematically tending to ourselves, tending to our fire, tending to our focus. And then right after that, Venus makes this sextile and trine to the nodes. South Node Virgo is all about letting the minutia go, letting the busy work go, that need to do it right and do it perfectly so that you get the approval, letting that go, and moving toward the higher side of Pisces. I started this talk off talking about how Pisces can really bring us into anxiety because it brings in all the unknowns and all of the questions of, am I going to mess this up? What if I end up in hell? Now, the North Node in Pisces says we're working on developing the exalted energy of Pisces, which is connection. It's connection to God. Do you think God really cares whether you call him God or source or universe? Do you really think that matters? When we look at language and how many languages there are on this planet alone, how many words in every language on this planet alone, do you really think that this source energy cares what word we use to say God? No, I don't. So we're working on this surrender and just trusting that it's all okay. We are being guided in the right direction, especially if we are leading with love, compassion, empathy, kindness. All right. So when Venus is making a nice connection to these nodes, again, it's like, what are you valuing? Are you valuing working your fingers to the bone so that you can get an A, even though you're going to be exhausted and drained and it's going to ruin your week? Or are you prioritizing just listening to that small, quiet, tiny voice within that says, go this way? I know which one I want to listen to. And because all of the asteroids, if you remember in the path ahead last week, where I talked about all of the asteroids being within the same little set of degrees, well, they're still in the same set of degrees. So that means that Venus is then going to trine Juno. So again, great Juno videos on Astrology for Awakening. Check those out. Juno is the asteroid that is about our long-term partnerships. So there's a partnership element here as well, especially as it relates to Venus, which is a partnership planet. So those partnerships that might have struggled or might have improved through the Mercury retrograde, what do they need? What do they need from you? What kind of support do they need from you? And see whether you can either be the bigger person and change your perception so that you can support yourself within this difficult relationship, or continue to build whatever you were able to build so that you are a co-creator of good, pleasant, healthy relationships. All right. Well, that's all for now. I will be back later this week with one final Leo video, which is the Leo shadow. Make sure you check out all of the other Leo videos that I've released this month. We're moving into Virgo next week. So, whole new energy, and I'll see you all soon.